What's going on, Tide fans? Happy Sunday. I was just enjoying a cookie, and I had this thought. We've talked a lot about Alabama's 2025 recruiting class and how it's structured to look a lot like Nick Saban's 2017 recruiting class. And for those of you who remember that recruiting class, Tua, Matt Jones, Jerry Jeudy, Najee Harris, a ridiculous amount of talent, a lot of first rounders, Heisman, Heisman Trophy winner, this class, right? And Kalen DeBoer and staff have modeled their 2025 class to look a lot like the 2017 class. And we all know they're offensive minded coaches. We all know what Washington, Michael Penix Jr., and those wide receivers out at Washington did last year. We all know what Kalen DeBoer has done in his career. And I got to thinking, what if college football's worst nightmare becomes a reality starting this season? What if Alabama is actually better under Kalen DeBoer? And I know what you're thinking. That's wild to say out loud, but when you really think about how college football has evolved, defense, of course, is still very important, and we all understand that that's Nick Saban's um, baby. The defensive side of the ball was his baby. But in an era of college football where good offenses are going to score points no matter what you do defensively, a high octane next level offense seems more important, right? The evolution of offense. And so when you bring in a guy who is offensive minded in today's modern era of college football, and you give him a weapon like a Jalen Milro or a Keelan Russell coming up with a outstanding core of wide receivers and one of the, if not the premier running back room in the country. What if Alabama is just takes the next step? Maybe not defensively. Kane Womack's gonna have to, get his feet wet and adapt. And we all know that defense still wins championships, but that narrative I feel like it's changing as college football changes. And it's not to say that defense again is not important. I know a lot of Alabama's brand has always been built on defense. Alabama's fielded some of the best college football defenses of all time. And you still see in other championship contender teams that defense is still very, very, very important, such as Georgia. But Alabama is going to field a top 20 defense. Even with all the exits, even with all the people graduating, going to the draft, transfer portal, all these things, even without a Caleb Downs, a Trey Amos, Alabama's still going to field a top 20 defense. So if they field a top 5 offense, and keep in mind last year, and I know Jalen Milro had his hills and valleys, his peaks and valleys, but he's entering into his second year as the starting quarterback, as the guy. And we've talked a lot about Milro and him being able to trust his coaches, his coordinators, his offensive line. And if that trust happens, it takes him to the next level as well, right? What everybody says, Milro's got the prettiest deep ball in the country. We know what he can do with his legs, right? He needs to expand upon his short intermediate game, slow the defense down with his eyes, make good reads, blah, 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 right? Really hard for him to do last year when he's running for his life, half a second after the ball snapped, or the ball snapped over his head or behind him, or we saw that a lot. But if Milrow is able to make that next step, which I think we all feel very confident he will, and look, I know that Bama lost Jermaine Burton, Isaiah Bond, but don't sleep on this wide receiving core. Kendrick Law, Kobe Prentice. Jalen Hale won't be there, most likely. But he'll be back next year. Better, stronger, faster. Shout out Jalen Hale. Of course, Ryan Williams, the addition of Ryan Williams. What if Alabama's offense is as good as we've ever seen? And that's saying something, because 2020's offense, I know it gets compared to the 2019 LSU offense. I personally think it was better. But what if Alabama's offense is one of the best we've ever seen in Tuscaloosa? What if Alabama gets better under Kalen DeBoer? If anybody can unlock the offensive potential, it's not going to be a defensive head coach, right? It's going to be an offensive guy. An offensive guy with a winning track record who brings in guys who have the experience, the SEC experience, the coaching experience, which he has. We've shown you the web, the pipeline that Kalen DeBoer created with these coaches. And you bring in a guy like Coach Shepard, who's going to have these wide receivers just ready to go. Coach Cap, who is probably going to field one of the best offensive lines in the country, at least talent on paper. Caden Proctor is going to get better. You bring in the best center in the country in Parker Brailsford. Even without Roydell Williams, who transferred to FSU, Alabama's backfield is stacked, man. If Alabama fields a top 5 offense and a top 20 defense, this could be one of the better teams we've seen in 20 years. But the rest of the country isn't ready to talk about that because to them, because Nick Saban's gone and because Bama got poached when the portal opened, they can't be as good. Well, what if Alabama just trimmed the fat? Right? They just trim the fat. You got the toxicity out of the locker room. You've got people there who are buying into this new coaching philosophy, this new offensive, high-flying coaching philosophy. You got Jalen Milro, who people forget finished 5th in Heisman voting. And a coach who coached somebody else who was a Heisman finalist. What if the country's worst nightmare is coming into fruition? And although Nick Saban has hung up the straw hat and Bama looked to be quote unquote burning with that 30-day transfer portal window, what if Alabama maintains and gets better? What if Alabama becomes better suited for this era of college football? That should scare everybody. If you're an Alabama fan, that should get you pumped up. It does me. That's why I'm making this video. But if you are not an Alabama fan, that should scare you a little bit. That's probably why they called him Husky Harsin, because deep down they know. Anyway, hope everybody had a wonderful weekend. Got some awesome content coming your way this week. Obviously, After Dark is Wednesday night. We'll be live here on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. And then Thursday is our regular weekly show. Same thing, live, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. Be there. Be active. Engage with us. Been growing a lot lately. Thank you all. We really appreciate you so much. Kicking off the Way Offside Sports Network. If you are a content creator, this is something you want to be involved in, you can reach out to us. The best way to do that is probably direct message us on Twitter. I'll put those handles above if you would like to. We've got a couple of people interested in joining already. So that'll be it. As always, say your prayers, read your Bibles, wash your hands, horns down, beat Auburn and Tennessee and LSU and everybody else. Let's beat them all. Right? What if Alabama and Coach DeBoer are better suited for this new era of college football? Something to think about while you're laying in bed tonight. Roll Tide, y'all.